I just took delivery of my LX yesterday and I have discovered even more packaging problems with the new Toyotas. We're going to discuss all of the packaging problems in today's video. And yes, I accidentally shaved off my mustache, which means that I had to shave off my beard. And well, I'm going to include my face in this video the least amount of time possible because the baby face, I just don't like it. Quick recap, I purchased a Lexus LX700h Overtrail to do a long-term series to test the reliability of Toyota's new powertrain. And as you can see with the 200 series in the driveway, I happen to be a pretty big Land Cruiser fan. And for the 300 series, we actually don't get a Land Cruiser here in the US market. We only get the Lexus LX, and the Overtrail is really the only one that's actually Land Cruiser-like because it's got, well, a few things. All-terrain tires from the factory, which means this can actually do off-roading right out of the gate. It also has Toyota's multi-terrain select and crawl control system, a 2-speed transfer case, and this is the only Toyota here in the US that has a front and a rear diff lock. And the ultimate Toyota SUV has the ultimate packaging problems. Let's just get into the items. I will never stop complaining about Lexus front ends. Whoever has been the person in charge of styling Lexus SUVs since what, I think like 2008, 2009, I don't understand how they have a job at this point. Not only is this hideous, but it is horribly impractical. Even with the active height control in the highest setting, this still has a worse approach angle than the 200 series Land Cruiser that has completely fixed suspension and has quite a bit less ground clearance. And the 200 series, when it comes to design, well, this is nothing new, but I mean, the front end of this car looks so much better than the front end of the Lexus. Just to be clear, I think the headlights in the top section of the grille look fine. It's just the bottom section that is a complete mess, and this is not just for the LX. The GX is a little bit better, but it's still pretty awful. They need to just completely redesign the bottom end to not hang down so low, but also not to have that weird kind of wide-jawed appearance. It doesn't look good. It's horrible. But respectfully, if you're the person who designed this, good job on the top, bad job on the bottom, please go back to the drawing board. Now, the next item is something that I would have never learned about had I not bought one of these, and that is actually tire fitment, and this is specific to the LX. So my 200 series Land Cruiser is on stock wheels, stock suspension, and it has tires that are about 32.7 inches in size, so not quite a true 33. And I have a teeny tiny bit of rubbing with this setup. This was a major complaint for a lot of people with the previous gen Toyotas, is you couldn't even really fit a true 33 under without modification or willingness to just have lots of rubbing. Now with these new Toyotas, there's supposed to be a lot more space in the wheel wells to fit larger tires. When it comes to the 4Runner, the GX, and the new 250 Land Cruiser, that is 100% the case. You can fit 33s without rubbing, and you can even fit almost a 34 with very minor rubbing. On my Land Cruiser, I had a 285 by 70 by 18 underneath it with the stock wheels, and it rubbed just a little bit, but it wasn't bad at all. Now, you know, I still have the stock tires on this. We tried to fit the 285 by 70 by 18 on this, and it rubbed a massive amount. It's going to be hard to get this on video, but basically the tire was rubbing against the sway bar. Now again, this has 4 different suspension heights. It's got the low, the neutral, the H1, and the H2, and it was rubbing massively in low, neutral, H2. For some reason in H1 it wasn't rubbing as much. Now we are going to try out 33-inch tall tires with aftermarket wheels to see if that will work a little bit better. But at least for the LX, it looks like tire fitment is still a problem with this car, whereas with the other new Toyotas, it has gotten better, but it's not that much better compared to the previous gen. Again, you're basically being able to go from a 32 without rubbing to a 33 without rubbing. And this now leads us to, well, the one packaging issue we all know about. This week's giveaway is huge if you are a NASCAR fan. Dream Giveaway is working with the King Richard Petty to offer a fully custom wide-body Hellcat Charger. It produces 885 horsepower. It's got wheels, it's got an exhaust, it's got custom leather seats. It really does have everything. Not only can you win this car, but it will come with $25,000 in cash to help pay for the taxes, and your donation goes to help children's and veterans charities. use code BHC or click the link in the description down below or in the pinned comment. This will give you 4x bonus entries with any donation, $25 or more. And that is the hybrid battery situation. I got one of these with the 2-row because with the 3rd row, you literally have no cargo area because the 3rd row sits on top of this battery, so you lose several inches, and this is already conceding some storage. First off, why did Toyota get rid of the tailgates in the Land Cruisers? Anyways, there's a bunch of junk back here, but I think you guys can see what I'm talking about. The load floor on this is significantly lower, which means that you just have a lot more vertical room in the previous version of the Land Cruiser. And although the previous version is 6 inches shorter, the cargo space actually just feels bigger. Is it actually bigger? Well, the new one is a little bit deeper, but the new one just feels narrower and it feels shorter overall. So I think that the old one actually just has more space, at least usable space in the real world. Something that I will give Toyota credit for is the interior space on this new Lexus LX/300 series Land Cruiser. There is not a massive amount more room compared to the 200 series, but there is slightly more space in the 2nd row, making it just a little bit more passenger friendly. And unlike a lot of other modern cars, they actually have physical buttons for the climate controls in the back. You also have heated ventilated seat controls. So I like that they've kept some physical controls. That makes it really user-friendly. And this is actually really cool, that the rear passengers can access the center cool box from the back with their own handle. And there's also vents throughout, but something to note, the headroom back here, because the body on frame construction, everything being pushed up, it's still not massive. Again, Land Cruisers have always been a little bit cramped with that. Now, I guess this isn't packaging per se, but I will say a lot of the new Toyotas, other than the Lexus GX, just don't have the greatest payload. This has 1,190 pounds of payload capacity. My 200 series, for reference, has 1,320, and you know, the extra payload capacity does make a difference. Now, this video is not all bad. They actually added acoustic glass all throughout the LX, so the front and the rear windows have it. That does mean compared to a 200 series and a 570 LX, this is a lot more insulated. And the wireless Apple CarPlay has actually worked phenomenally well. This is the only car I've ever had, well, so far, knock on wood, no issues with the wireless Apple CarPlay. I mean, like, I had a Supra, for example, and it had issues right off the bat because it had a BMW system. Now, I don't know if we can qualify this as packaging, but I hate the fact that every single time I turn on the car, I get warnings because I've turned off some of the safety tech. Like, I chose to turn it off for a reason. I don't need you to warn me that I turned something off that I didn't want. And while we're on that topic, some of the safety tech I literally have to turn off every single time I get in the car if I didn't want it. Like, I don't care about this. I don't care about this. I understand that some people will see value in it, but like, I'm 28 years old. I've got good, well, I mean, I have glasses, so I guess I don't have great vision, but with glasses, I've got good vision. And I pay attention. So like, a lot of this stuff to me is just Big Brother. It's just nannies. It's just annoying. And the fact you have to turn it off every single time you get in if you don't want it is annoying. And look at that, more warnings on the dash that will constantly, well, I shouldn't say constantly, but yeah, they just pop up. It's like, cool, I turned it off, I know. You don't have to let me know twice. And being a digital age Toyota, you have to dive into the infotainment system for a lot of stuff like that is in the screen. The one thing that people always talk about is the massage seat function. It comes with massage seats, but look how many clicks that is to get it on. Yeah, that took a little bit. And the screen's a decent distance from you as the driver, so imagine you're trying to do that while you're driving. You pretty much need to have a passenger so that you can turn on your massage seat. Now, this is the only Lexus that has this double screen setup, and I don't really judge them too much for this, but this is technically a packaging problem, so we do got to mention it in the video. From my understanding, they developed this car with this screen down below first, like that was going to the infotainment system and everything, and then they came out with new infotainment system UI, and so they had to add a screen on top of the dash after this car was already mostly developed. So yeah, this is why you have this whole screen clutter situation, is literally packaging problems. And you know what, Lexus, Toyota, if you're watching this, I would not mind if this bottom screen was all that we had. Like, all I need is a backup camera, and you know, again, like the, you know, Apple CarPlay and everything, you could easily integrate in the small screen. I don't need a big screen. Like, this whole thing where car makers think that people need a big screen, it's just, it's not the case. This screen size is more than adequate. While we're in this whole screen area, I will say, them still offering physical buttons. A lot of other luxury cars do not offer physical buttons anymore. Like BMW has barely any in a lot of their cars. Mercedes is going away from physical buttons. This is a relief. Like, major functions like the climate and obviously the drive modes and all that kind of stuff, it's nice having physical controls. Oh, and this one's a big one. Again, it has height adjustable suspension. Land Rover is a good example. Like a lot of their cars now with like the Range Rover Sport, you got to go into the screen to adjust the suspension up or down. I like having a button to be able to do something that's major. Speaking of buttons, the diff locks feel like a complete afterthought. I mean, that literally looks like an aftermarket panel, and it's completely behind the steering wheel. So like you kind of have to look over and make sure you're pressing the right diff lock button. I'm sure I'll get used to it, right? Rear lock on the right, front lock on the left, but I mean, you can't even see it from the driving perspective. And then the center diff lock is here, so two completely different places. And you guys know that I owned an Ineos Grenadier that had like the whole control stack up top, which I'd rather have that than this sunroof, to be honest. Also, my sunroof's pretty dirty. Probably need to give the car wash. Anyways, that would have been a better place for the diff lock rather than in this little weird area. And this is one of the problems with having such big screens. Like trailer brake controls are over here on the left side of the steering wheel, so it's like they have to put the physical buttons kind of hidden in all over the place because you got this monstrosity in the center. Now, this is not just an LX problem. This is a 4Runner GX 250 Land Cruiser problem. All of these new Toyotas don't have a crazy amount of space in terms of like the width for your knees, especially on the left side. I mean, my knee literally rests against the door panel here. There is a little bit of soft touch trim, but also pushing on the door over time wears out kind of the whole system. And you know, this is probably gonna get pretty wiggly over time. And it's funny because there's like a nicer pad here on this side, but there's so much space that unless you're much taller than me, like well over 6 foot, you're probably not going to be hitting that with your knee. Again, if we hop back in the 200 series, I've got like room to play. Again, remember my leg was like right up against that. Like I'm having to push my leg out to put my leg against the door panel, where it's here in the 200, there's just more room. And I guess while we're in the 200, why does my wife have M&Ms up front? Anyways, look at all the physical controls. Like everything makes sense. All the off-road stuff is all in one place. The radio controls, the climate controls, and then look at this screen. Not too big, nicely integrated into the dash. Like, Toyota knows how to do packaging. Back in the LX, I will say the seats here are more comfortable than the 200 series seats, but I don't think they're really that much more comfortable than the LX570. Now, the camera just doesn't have as wide of a lens of view as a human being, but this kind of gives you an idea of the overall feel. And this is the last thing I mentioned. The 200 series, like I said, just felt more open in general. This kind of feels more closed off from the driving perspective. Like you're tighter in here, and then like how this all comes down to the side, and then just the whole windshield, like everything. Again, hopefully that kind of shows you, it just feels tighter. Now, before I get into the final boss of packaging problems, one thing I will give Toyota credit for is they at least still included a 12 volt. They have gone completely away from regular USB ports, so that is something that's annoying for me because I have a lot of stuff that's just an old school USB, but at least I got that. Final boss of packaging. You guys can see 3/4 of a tank, 194 miles of range. That's because the fuel tank on this is like what, 17, 18 gallons? I think it's like 17.9 if I remember right. Not a single new Toyota product, well I actually shouldn't say that. Only one new Toyota product, and that is the Tundra, has an adequate fuel tank. Everything else has a fuel tank that's too small. The 200 series, for reference, has a fuel tank that's almost 25 gallons in capacity. Now I'm sure that the Toyota cultists will say, well, the new Toyotas are more efficient, and so the smaller fuel tank will give you similar range. Phooey. I'm still in the break-in period, but I'm averaging 12.6 miles per gallon so far. The best I've been able to average in the new LX is 17 miles per gallon, but a lot of the times I'm in that 15 to 16 mile per gallon range. And the 200 series, I've never seen 17 miles per gallon, but I regularly am able to average about 15 to 16 miles per gallon. So similar fuel economy, but it has a bigger tank. And you know, as a huge Toyota enthusiast, the thing that's frustrating about a lot of these packaging issues is most of them I can't really fix. Some of them I can, but it requires a lot of money, and let me go over the items that I can fix and the cost. So with the tire and wheel setup situation, I'm going to try aftermarket wheels, let you guys know how that goes, but that is one way that I can kind of play with the whole fitment situation to fit a slightly larger tire, but that requires new wheels, new tires. And the only other thing that I can really fix myself is this atrocity, and the only way to do that is aftermarket bumper, meaning I have to cut into the stock bumper, which is painful on a car that's over 6 figures, and that's also extremely expensive. But I will say, despite my complaint about the front end, with the active height control system, this can go most of the places that the 200 series can go from an angle perspective, because although it has worse angles than the 200 series, it's close enough that you can make things work, and it does technically have more ground clearance, which somewhat evens the playing field. And I will show that in videos. I do plan on taking this off-road once we get the new tire and wheel setup all figured out, just to show you guys how capable this is stock, because even though I'm complaining about it, it's still a very capable vehicle right out of the box. And to be clear, the tires that we're going to be starting out are going to be barely bigger than stock. These are a 32.6. We're going to a 33 inch. So we're not going to an oversized 34 or anything like that. Doesn't fit, like I said. Last thing, I know a lot of people are going to be commenting on the appearance of this car. Satin PPF on Nori Green. If you can afford to put full body PPF on a car, Nori Green is probably one of the best colors that Lexus has to do the whole PPF setup. I mean, you guys can let me know what you think about the looks, but I think this looks incredible with the satin finish. Don't think that I hate this car. We're off to a little bit of a rough start, but I think that once I get into more daily driving and off-roading and get the tire and wheels fitment situation figured out, I'm gonna have a lot less to complain about. I'll see you.